okay.
Right, we'll start again. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Health Overview and Scrutiny panel. I'm Councillor Graham Healy from Portsmouth. Councillor Ian Holder, the chair, has sent his apologies. So I've been asked to chair, but in order for me to chair the meeting, I'll require someone to nominate me. Now, I believe Councillor Kadir has been invited to do this, but I can't see him on the list of people here yet.
I'll nominate you, Martin Pepper.
Oh, Martin. Oh, thank you, Martin. That's really
Brian Madgwick will second.
Happy to second that.
Thank you very much, Steve. Get on with the meeting, so thank you for that. Thank you. Members of the public are invited to view this meeting online, and the usual what I will say is those present are requested to keep their microphones on mute, to only turn them on when you're called to speak. Members are requested to keep their cameras turned on at all times, and officers and external presenters are requested to turn your cameras on only when you're presenting your reports or answering questions. Now, if you'd like to speak, I'm going to ask if you could write your name and RTS, that's a request to speak, in the chat function. That means that I won't mix up the order in which people indicate. If you put the little hand up, I won't know necessarily when you've done that, because I'll be concentrating on quite a lot of things. So if you put RTS, I'll know who has actually requested in the right order. So if you do that, that would be helpful. But the first thing I'm going to ask people to do is to introduce themselves. So shall I start with Arthur, because you're top left of my corner, and alphabetically the first one as well, I think.
It's a problem with two initials, so that are A, you get to the front of everything. Good afternoon, Chairman. I'm Arthur Agate. I am East Hants District Council's representative on the Portsmouth Health Overview and Scrutiny panel.
And then on the bottom left, I've got Brian Madgwick. Councillor Madgwick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Good afternoon. I'm Councillor Brian Madgwick from Portsgrove Ward. I'm quite new to this, so I won't be talking a lot, but at the end of the day, I'm writing and learning, so I'll be listening to you, believe me.
Well, that's okay, Brian. If you have any questions, I mean, please feel free to ask. There's no such thing as a daft question.
Can I just ask one question now? And it's very quick. I have I want to get more involved in this, much more involved in this. And after reading the little bit about the person with mental difficulties who's now sadly died, I would like to get further in that. Is this the sort of meeting I talk to you, or do I talk to you privately about going along to these facilities and seeing what I can learn and find out more and maybe even help? Do I ask that now or not?
Well, I think members of have in the past visited various health establishments and been taken on visits. But if you wanted to find out something particular in relation to particular services, I'm sure we could organise something via Alison and the relevant health organisations. I'm sure that would be possible. And also, if any other members wanted to do that, I'm sure we could do that. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll be quiet from now on.
So, I've got Councillor Ball.
Hello there, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Joanne Ball. I'm Fareham Borough Council representative, executive member for Health and Public Protection, and it's my first meeting, so nice to see you all virtually.
Welcome. Councillor Briggs.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm the representative from Hampshire County Council, and I'm also Vice Chair of the Hampshire HASC. And can I just say to Brian Madgwick, that is a fantastic way to learn about going and visiting people and talking to them. So I highly recommend it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
Martin Pepper from Gosport.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Chair. Martin Pepper, Peel Common Ward on Gosport Borough Council and the Council's representative on this panel.
Julie?
Oh, good afternoon. My name is Julie Richardson. I am West Hayling councillor representing Havant Borough on this board.
Okay. I've also got Siobhan from Health Watch.
Hello everyone, Siobhan McCurrock from Health Watch Portsmouth. I'm the manager of the staff team of Health Watch Portsmouth. I'm presenting the last item on the agenda. Thanks.
Okay, now I seem to run out of individual on my screen, so I know there are other people here, but I can't see them at the moment. So I think we must be on to. We've got any more members? I'm trying to draw the participants list up, but I've only got the first 5. I can't get the rest of them, so it's gone. Now, is there anyone else who hasn't been introduced who'd like to volunteer to introduce themselves? It's an ominous silence going on.
I'm
We don't appear to have any.
I'm Alison Harper from Democratic Services.
I've got Bernie.
Thank you, Chair. Do apologise if it's not the right order. My name's Bernie Allen. I'm Deputy Director of Planning and Governance, and I'm here nominated as Jo York's deputy this afternoon to present her paper. It's the first time I've been as well. I apologise now.
And then we've got Sylvia.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Sylvia Macy. I work with Bernie. I'm Acting Deputy Director of Primary Care. So I'm hoping that Bernie's going to say everything, but if there are some really intricate questions, then hopefully I'll be able to help.
Okay. Is there anyone else who hasn't been introduced or hasn't introduced themselves? No?
Sorry, it's Susanna Rosenberg. I'm Chief Operating Officer for Solent NHS Trust.
Hi, Susanna. I thought you were there, but I couldn't see your face or name. I wasn't sure if you were here, so thank you for that. Right, I think that is everyone. Unless anyone else has forgotten. No? Okay, right. Well, we need to move on to declarations of members' interest. Are there any members who have any interest to declare?
No.
Nope. Silence. I'll assume silence is nothing, so we can then move on. So we've got
Councillor Healy, can I just say that Councillor Mark Jeffries has sent apologies as well.
Oh right, yes, apologies. So that's
as well as Councillor Holder.
And Councillor Kadir, he's not here, but have we heard anything from him? No. Okay. Well, we'll he might join us. He may have got held up or something, so we'll wait to see if he does come. Right, well, I'm going to move on to the minutes of the last meeting, which was held on 23rd of June. What I'm going to do is just go page by page. If anybody has any matters arising or anything they want to maybe correct, if they could let me know. My agenda paper has both page 1 and page 3, but we'll page 1 as it. Page 1 of the minutes. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. And page 6. So I think we can take that as a correct report for the minutes, and there are no particular matters arising. The next item on the agenda is the Hampshire Integrated Care Board. Who's presenting that report?
Chair, I think that's the report that I've been asked to come to present today on behalf of Jo York. I think on the agenda it's Jo's item.
Okay, well, what I was going to say was rather than go through the report in detail, because we hope that members will have read it, is there anything in particular you wanted to add, maybe that has come up subsequently, or anything you particularly like to highlight?
Thank you, Chair. In terms of highlights, I think perhaps for the minutes we should recognise that we are now part of the ICB. When HOSP met previously, we were just on the cusp of that merger, and that has now happened. So that entity exists. Couple of salient features for me. We hosted the GP Summit earlier in the summer since we last met. Really delivered in close support with council, and with huge thanks to the councillors for the support that went into that. We're continuing to work and develop on the themes that came from that, so that was really well received. And then probably the dentistry, you know, we are early days on the work on that. We know it is of significant interest to people, and again the ICB offers us a chance to strengthen our voice, but all of our work that we're doing closer with public health colleagues and the local representation will continue to progress. I didn't have anything further, but I think I may have summarised the key points of interest.
That's fine, thank you. There's just one thing I wanted to ask about. On page 11, there's obviously a drafting, I think, where it says under section 75 update, it has a thing was it's expected the agreement will be completed in, and there are 3 X's because presumably when it was drafted they didn't have a date. Because I've got 3 X's, which marks another step forward. So I don't know if you've got a date for that.
So we have the existing section 75s in place, so they exist. Revised schedules, we are amending for the name because all of that has to go through and be amended, and our timetable to do that is probably mid-October, and to tidy up any other pieces, but I couldn't give you a specific date, I'm sorry.
Okay, right, we'll leave that. I just spotted that and thought, well, maybe we've got a date, but thank you. Do any members have any questions in the chat indicated? Anyone got any questions?
I have put my name in chat, Chairman. It's Anne Briggs.
Oh yes. Oh, sorry. You just put your name. If you just put RTS, so that I know you're asking.
Oh, RTS. Sorry, I put my name in.
Then I know that you are speaking, not just appeared as a member. So yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. My question's on the elective hub, which is great. It's going ahead. But what I'm just slightly confused about, patients will be given a choice to go to the hub. But say you're at QA Hospital and you see your surgeon there, but do you then agree to go to the elective hub because it can be done quicker? Does that mean it will be a different surgeon from another hospital? How's it going to work? Oh, and is it happening because perhaps on that day there's no operating theatre, say at QA? How is it going to be advantageous, please?
Sorry, Chair, am I allowed to respond directly? Sorry, I don't want to be stilted, but I don't want to talk out of turn either.
Thank you.
So the idea of the elective hub is that we can offer more continuous care so that we can ensure that a theatre session runs and it is staffed. Yeah, an individual consultant will be available and will staff that list and deliver that list. I don't know the referral protocols with regards to being treated by your personal consultant, and I'm not sure if the work has been developed to confirm that yet, but they are the pathway components that will be discussed and agreed as part of that business case.
Okay, so it's still not very clear then as to how it's going to work.
Not that I'm aware of, based upon what I have, Councillor Briggs. I can ask for a specific update to be sent to you if there's one available.
Yes, I would appreciate that, please. Probably everyone on the committee would. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Anne. I did see Julie put her hand up, so I've got a hand up there for Julie. Go on.
Unmute. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to ask Bernie, have any of the things that Teresa Coffey has said today impacted upon this? And are they going to, is it going to facilitate things or is it going to hamper things?
I think, to be fair, it's probably too soon for us to comment. I think we need to see the documents as they come out and understand. I think it's a bit too soon for us to comment on that. Yeah, I am sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I've got Martin next.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just a quick one reference advertising campaigns for staff by individual surgeries. I think I've lost the page I was looking at. It occurs to me that since we are fishing from a relatively small pool, and I'm from Gosport, would this Portsmouth advertising campaigns make it more complex for Gosport to keep its staff? Or is the campaign looking wider and attracting people into Hampshire and Portsmouth specifically? How would that work, please?
I believe it's the latter. I'm going to look to Sylvia just to check if she is directly engaged with it. Just wanted to flag that our colleague Steve, who is the lead on this, called off sick and left us about half an hour before the meeting, unfortunately. So if we, again, do apologise. If we don't have the answer, we will get it back to you. Sylvia.
So I'm really sorry. No, I'm not close enough to this piece of work to be able to give you a proper and full answer. What I do know is that the campaign generally, I think we might be talking about two campaigns, but there is a campaign across Portsmouth to encourage patients to look at the wider team and not just ask for a GP appointment, but to understand that there are other skill mix people in that. And I think that the other piece of advertising for staff fits into that as well. But we are and always have done really worked across the whole system. So I would agree with Bernie. I think it's the latter, but I can't absolutely guarantee it is.
Thank you, Sylvia. Then I've got Arthur. Oh, sorry, Martin, did you want to come back?
Can I ask another question now, or do I wait? Yeah,
no.
Go my turn. Okay, then. I was speaking to a couple of GPs yesterday in Gosport about retention schemes for GPs. Well, in fact, a whole range of subjects. But one of the things that came up was this GP retention scheme after attracting them. And I see that Portsmouth have one GP on the scheme. I mean, I don't know what the scheme is entitled to, but it doesn't sound very many to me. I was just wondering why that would be.
I think it just depends on the range of GPs that are there at any one time. There are obviously certain parameters they have to fit into to get the scheme. And again, I'm not entirely close to this, so I feel very helpless actually. In this, I was trying to just think, but I know that there are issues with retaining GPs, but we also know that there are various schemes, and it just depends on that GP's walk of life as to whether they fit into those parameters. So not a very comprehensive answer for you, I'm afraid, but we can give you some more information on the retention scheme if that's helpful.
Yes, that would be helpful. So
okay.
And just one last one, if I may, Chair. In terms of no, it's gone. Apologies.
If it comes back, you can come back again. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Arthur, you want to ask a question?
Thank you, Chairman. It was we're looking at that elective hub. It does state quite clearly plans for, so in this report, so I would expect that we would see that filled up for our next meeting, that we would get some answers and see how this is happening. As far as doctors are concerned, well, everything revolves around money. Our dentistry in Portsmouth is a prime example. I don't think there are any NHS dentists left in Portsmouth. Siobhan will be able to tell us later on. I'm sure she will, because I've already been nagging her about that. So that's the stuff's there. We just got to perhaps read it a bit better. Thank you.
Okay. And just in regard to NHS dentists, I think the problem is that people are not being accepted on lists. I mean, I have an NHS dentist in Portsmouth, but I don't think they're putting any new people on. So that's the problem I think we've got. If you've got one already, you're okay. But if you haven't, then you've got a problem. But
No, that's sorry, that's not strictly true, because I had an NH dentist in Oswald Road in Portsmouth who just advised me he doesn't want any more NHS, and but if I care to fill out this form, let him have it back and spend an awful lot of money, he's quite happy to keep me on his books.
Yes, some practices are making a decision to go only private as well. That's the other thing. Yes, it's happened. But sometimes if you do have an NHS and they're staying, you're lucky. But yes, okay, right. Thank you for that. Anybody else got any knowledge? I can't see any other indications. Oh, Sylvia, do you want to come back?
Are you happy for me to respond about the dentists?
Yeah, please do. Sorry.
So with regard to dentistry, that is the bit I do know a bit about. So there are NHS dentists in Portsmouth. Some of them are choosing to release their NHS contracts and go private. That is true. There is, however, a difficulty in the same way that it's difficult to recruit GPs. It's also difficult to recruit dentists. That's not an excuse. That's literally where we are. But there is a procurement exercise. It's currently being undertaken by NHS England. And I know the next question is going to be, when are we going to see the effects of it? And I can't give you an absolute date because procurement isn't quite tied into dates like that. But before April, there should be a number of units of dental activity recommissioned in Portsmouth. And we are expecting that situation to change slowly. It won't be a big bang, because what happens with a new contract is the dentists allow, they only sort of open their books, as it were, a little bit at a time. Otherwise, they do get completely overwhelmed and they can't see anybody, because all they're doing is those first timers. And the people who need treatment often need several appointments to get them dentally fit. So although I can't give you the comfort of an absolute date when there will be dentistry for everybody, I can say we're working on it, and I can say that we expect it to improve, albeit slowly, over the next 6 to 12 months.
Well, thank you, Sylvia. That's useful to know. That's good. Thank you. I can't see more. I do have one question myself. It relates to the Trafalgar Medical Group practice moving to the Debenham site when it's redeveloped. We're sort of in a bit of a hiatus at the moment. Is there any news about how that is progressing?
That's again me. So actually there are talks ongoing, is all I can say. Everybody has agreed it's a great idea. Everything has been agreed from our point of view. The developer is still keen to progress. There's been a slight hiccup with the transfer or sale of the land, but that is there are talks underway, and that's really all I can say.
Yeah, well, that's useful to know. These things are still moving. That's it hasn't sort of come to a complete halt, and nothing happening. So that we'll have to wait and see on that. But thank you for that question. Right, well, I've got no more indication of questions on that particular item. Oh, Martin, you want to come back if you?
Yeah, I'll come back with it. I'll come back with the question I was going to ask, and also another point about Gosport dentists. I know, because I went to try and see one last week, that there are no NHS slots available at the moment in Gosport, and if it helps, there are no veterinary slots for dogs or cats either. So if you're ill in any sense in Gosport, you are on a loser, frankly. In terms of something that someone said earlier on about patients wanting to see someone that's not a doctor. Again, we discussed this yesterday, and I left the discussion with the same view. An individual feels sick. They think they've got a damaged ear. They don't really know if it's a damaged ear. So this is a bad example, I'm sure, but how do they know not to ask for a bad ear doctor as opposed to what's really causing the problem?
So the surgeries themselves have their own routes of triage. Sometimes it's a nurse, sometimes it's a doctor. So it just depends on the particular practice that you're talking about. But it's not necessarily about who the patient asks for. It's about understanding from the patient's point of view that they may be offered an appointment with a nurse or a physio, not for an ear, but or another member of the primary care team, rather than necessarily having a general practice appointment with a GP. So I think certainly the campaign in Portsmouth, that there was big posters everywhere, I don't know if you've seen them, that says it takes a team to look after a patient. And that's what we're trying to explain. It doesn't always have to be a doctor who sees something going on with an ear. It could be a paramedic. It could be a nurse. It could be an advanced nurse practitioner. It could be a physician's associate. So actually, you don't always need to see a doctor, and the practice, which is why sometimes people think the questions are a little bit intrusive, will direct you to the most appropriate person. So that was kind of the message I was trying to give at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Zoe. I've got an invitation from Anne Briggs, and then Julie. Anne first.
Thank you, Chairman. It's for you, Sylvia, I'm afraid. I'm going back to dentists. You mentioned Portsmouth, but I'm Waterlooville, my area, again, no dentists. Are you including Hampshire in general in this with recruiting more dentists?
So I was talking about units of dental activity, which is the size of the contract a dentist can hold, not the actual dental recruitment. So that's kind of two questions. We're not, or NHS England aren't commissioning additional activity everywhere in Hampshire, but there are some hotspots. So Portsmouth is one of them, Gosport is one of them, Havant is one of them, the Isle of Wight is one of them. And I think Southampton might be, but I honestly can't remember. So there is an additional amount of activity expected to come into the very local area. With regards to actual dentists and getting them to be able to work within the system, it's really complex, but we are working with the dentists, the local dental networks, the local dental committee, and the university to just see what the options are to encourage dentists to come here and work here. So I can't tell you anything more definite than that, but we are slowly working on it.
Okay, isn't it because of the contract they were put under? I mean, can we ever change it? Because really it's to the dentist's advantage money-wise, because everything's a business, including doctors these days. So if the contract could be changed, then...
So the problem is the contract is a national contract, so we don't have the power to change the contract. We can work with it sometimes to bring out some slightly alternative solutions, but the contract's the contract. But there is a national programme of dental reform, and there have been some very slight changes that were released in the summer, and there will be some more changes as we go through the next few years, but they really are in the hands of the government rather than necessarily in our hands to change.
I know it wasn't a good contract for the public, I don't think. Okay, thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you for that. Now I've got Julie and then Arthur. Julie?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm not sure if this is a question for Bernie or Sylvia, but you obviously talk in the report, or Mrs. York does, about urgent care and system pressures. I just wondered how things are going with winter rapidly approaching and how things are, and have we got a few things sorted, particularly in QA?
I think that one will be for me. And alongside stepping in for Joe today, I'm actually the system on-call director, the local delivery system on-call director. So it is still very busy. You know, that is the same, and we continue to see a lot of very poorly patients. We continue to work on the improvement programme, which is showing some changes and some improvements. We've just come out of a bank holiday, so there, you know, it is again challenged, and some of these changes will take a while to deliver. In terms of winter, there is a lot of work going on to ensure we have capacity in the right place and at the right time for people across the whole of the pathway, and that isn't just about accessing QA and ED. That's almost the last port of call, and some of that then comes back to what Sylvia's talked about, that when we contact our doctor to see a medical practitioner, recognizing that sometimes the medical practitioner we think we might see or should see may not be the medical practitioner that we do see. And so some of it is about that, and then accessing at the right time and the right place.
Thank you for that, Bernie. I mean, I do understand. I've been a nurse. I'm retired now, so I fully understand some of the pressures you have. And in terms of changing the system, how are you going to give people confidence that they are actually seeing the right people? Because, you know, I know from the patients I used to have, they want to see a doctor, and that's not, as you always say, probably the best person to see. And in fact, quite often a nurse would do far more for them. But I think it's instilling confidence in people that you know, these other specialisms can deal with their problems and deal with them probably more rapidly and more appropriately. And again, that goes across to sort of tele services and things like that, using a greater use of those things. As long as you can see somebody and you can see them face to face, you know, in the sort of situation we're in now, that helps people. It's when you get somebody on the other end of a phone that is maybe not as sympathetic, or reading from a script, you know, and maybe don't have the sort of patient focused incentives themselves, you know, it just doesn't help. So what are we doing to promote this in a more effective way?
So I think some of that comes back to the comms and explaining to people. We're working on that all the time. I think you've actually hit the nail on the head, though. The biggest piece is the experience as you go through that different channel, in ensuring that patient experiences a good level of care, whatever it is, and that is about reviewing the services and then continue to assess. And I will say, be honest and learn from the mistakes that we do make and put them right. And it is a permanent learning cycle, as you will know from your background.
Okay, thank you, Bernie.
Right. And Arthur.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, go back to dentistry again, just for a minute. The process of this panel, the next level up from us is the Home Office, I understand. And we have the facility to make comment about anything we like to the Home Office, to make our thoughts and wishes, because of the reports that we receive and the comments of the residents wherever we happen to live. Would it assist if this panel notified the Home Office that we consider that dentistry, NHS dentistry, is being left behind, and particularly as times get tighter, I understand that the Bank of England have upped their rates again. So we would be looking for them to perhaps take this under review and look at the dentists' contracts, because I understand they're not getting paid enough for NHS statements, patients. So that's where the trouble lies. Could we pass this upstairs, as I think is the process? Am I right?
As far as I understand it, yes, we can do, but I think as a Department of Health we would contact. But this normally happens in relation to an item where we are engaged in a consultation about service changes, and if we don't agree with the service changes, we can refer it to the Secretary of State, and there's a panel. I think we've done this once in the history of the HOSP here, I think, if I can remember correctly. As far as HOSP expressing a view to the Department of Health about the dentistry situation in Hampshire, I'm sure we could collectively, write a letter. I don't know if we've done that in the past because I haven't been on this panel for that long, so it might have happened before I was here. But I think we could probably do that, and that would have to come from the chair. I'm only the temporary chair, but the current chair would presumably do that. So I think that's a possibility. But I know Sylvia's indicating, so she may have something else to add to what I've said, or maybe correct something I haven't got right.
I honestly don't know about your processes, but I do know that we had a dental summit, which was actually really helpful and informative, and laid a lot of the issues on the table. And Penny Mordaunt was the one who convened that, and she is putting a level of pressure upwards, as it were. So I don't know whether it's worth talking to her or her team about how you could support that. That might be a different way to go. I'm not sure.
Alison, can I say, I don't know whether we've had any involvement or connection with the dental review that Penny undertook, but I suppose we could talk to her or the chair. I'm sort of feel a bit awkward here because I'm not the formal chair. I'm just sort of chairing the meeting, and yet I'm suggesting the chair might want to do things which he may take a different view on. Could I suggest, given what Arthur said, and given there is an overall concern, and I know we've had some updates on potentially new provision, that when we take away the idea that we will discuss with Penny more about her site and see whether, and maybe ask whether an approach from the HOSP to the department might be a useful thing to do, and that's something we can sort of have in our back pocket to do if we feel we want to after that discussion, and maybe when Ian's had a chance to have a think about it, and he could then inform the committee whether he feels it would be worthwhile and hopefully make a bit of an impact if he did write such a letter. Does that sound okay to people? Does that sound fairly clear?
Yeah, I can put it as an action.
Yeah, okay. That's probably what we ought to consider doing.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thanks, Arthur. Right, okay. So are there any further questions on this item? Because we're going to move on to item 5. If not, I can see no indications.
I did an RTS, Chair.
Oh, sorry, I've got Siobhan there, yes.
And then Siobhan did also.
Yes, so Martin and then Siobhan.
Yeah, just a quick one on the system pressures. Eliminating 60-minute ambulance delays, reducing total hours of ambulance lost, handover delays, reducing acute bed occupancy to 92%. Now, are those figures based on something we think we could possibly achieve, or is that something that we would expect to achieve in an ideal world? Thank you.
We
I don't
haven't.
know who I'm asking, by the way.
Yeah,
so
I
please.
think you're asking. I'll try to answer that one to you. The first two, we expect to be able to achieve absolutely. They will be challenging. Eliminating entirety a 60-minute hold is a challenge, but reducing them down below the levels we've got now, and we have set ourselves some challenging trajectories to take us down and to improve where we were by the beginning of October, partly as in response to the sort of winter pressures and where we are and how things might be. Reducing bed occupancy, absolutely. Again, that one is not a nice to do. That is the percentage that we think we can operate QA at that maintains the patient flow through the hospital, so that there is a bed available as you come through ED. You're not stuck in ED. And again, we are working on the plans to improve and reduce that. Current reported occupancy is higher than that at the moment, but it is improving.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, yeah.
Siobhan?
Thank you. I'm not due to speak yet until the item number 6, but I thought I'd just offer a little bit of information with regard to the dental summit, because Healthwatch Portsmouth attended it. And so we have received the planned report document that was issued by Penny Mordaunt's office only a couple of days ago, actually. So it's very timely that this meeting is taking place and I can update it. But basically, there were some immediate actions and there were some longer term systemic actions that Penny identified from the Dental Summit. And there are 2 steering groups that she proposed to be set up, one to achieve the immediate action points and another to build a roadmap for increasing the number of dentists in the city. And the facilitation of those 2 steering groups is yet to be organised, but she had a plan in action for as to who was the most appropriate people, including dentists. And certainly members of Healthwatch are to be included in that, but also Health and Care Portsmouth senior managers to coordinate the activities. So I think part of the Penny Mordaunt plan is also to take all of this to the Department of Health and Social Care and speak to Therese Coffey as well with regard to dentists. So Therese's ABCDD plan, which includes dentists and doctors, will have sight of the Penny Mordaunt Dental Summit for Portsmouth, which is indicative of the problems across the country, but it's just particularly bad in Portsmouth because of the gap in units of dental activity that have been now apparent in the city for about 3 or 4 years. So I think Penny Mordaunt's summit will, in a way, be your letter from Portsmouth.
Okay, well, thank you, actually. Well, that's a useful update on that. So.
You're welcome.
No more RTSs, no hands.
I'm just tempted to say, and Gosport? Question? I don't know if you got that because I can't remember if I was mute or not, but I'm tempted to say and Gosport as well as Portsmouth or not.
The summit was specifically about Portsmouth, but the Hampshire and Isle of Wight integrated care system is looking at dentistry across the entire Hampshire and Isle of Wight patch, and Healthwatch is involved in discussing with commissioners who will be receiving responsibility for dental commissioning from April onwards. So Gosport is in the mix, but Penny's summit was specifically about Portsmouth.
Right, okay.
Am I right to speak? Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Siobhan. We've actually got, we're a front runner with dental, pharmacy, optom and dental commissioning. And so we have actually got responsibility already. It was the 1st of July that this particular area or this particular ICB has taken responsibility. So we are just beginning to make some inroads, but we haven't looked after dental in this area before. So it's always been done at a slightly higher system level. So it's just taking us a little bit of time to become conversant. So I'm really hopeful that not only Portsmouth, but Gosport and Havant and the Isle of Wight will see some changes, but it's not something you can just change overnight.
Good. Well, I think the idea that we have more local influence, I suppose, would be the way to describe it, on what's happening rather than it being done by another body and we have to then respond to it is probably a good thing. So although it'll take a little bit of time to bed in the new arrangements, that's probably in the long term the better thing. So that's good. Right, I've just been checking everything to make sure I haven't missed anyone, and I haven't. So we're going to move on to item 5, which is the Southern NHS Trust, and I think Susanna is going to present this one. And again, I'm going to say I've expected to have read the report, so if there's anything in particular you wanted to add or to highlight, please feel free to do so, Susanna. So over to you.
Thanks, Councillor Heaney. I'm going to be able to answer questions on the first 2 items, and my Chief Exec, Andrew Strevens, is here to answer questions on the 3rd item, which is the Community Mental Health Review. So I just really wanted to just say one thing about the Jubilee House update because it's been to HOSP several times. I appreciate there's lots of new HOSP members, but we have brought this to you over the last 2 years, in fact, a number of times, and I'm really pleased that we have now almost concluded the work. The reason why it's taken so long is because of the pressures at QA and the need over the last 2 winters to fully open Jubilee House as surge capacity. But I would really commend this project to you from a Portsmouth perspective because it's a real showcase of how we've worked in an integrated way with the council and now have a combined bed stock, or will have a combined bed stock of discharge to assess and community rehabilitation beds on a single site from the 1st of October. And I think it's really good practice. So I think this will serve the residents of Portsmouth really, really well. Happy to take any questions about those 2 items.
Okay, I mean, interesting. I remember going on a visit with Councillor Atwell, who was chair of the hospital time when I first got on my council again, and we went to have a look at Jubilee House, had a look round. So yeah, it's taken a while to get there, but that's good. That's very good. I have Anne Briggs, and do you want to ask a question?
Actually, you didn't notice it was from the presenter. I wanted to ask Bernie a question, which is gone. So don't worry.
Oh, okay.
You didn't notice it. Thank you.
So has anyone got any questions for Julie?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, I just wanted to ask how good will the discharge be and getting people back into the community from Jubilee House? Because again, you know, you've still got the problems with social services and funding, etc. So how will that work out, please, Susanna?
So the integrated provision will improve the flow into those beds, so they will be much more effective. So currently we've got a length of stay in Harry Sotnick House in the South Sea unit, which Portsmouth City Council run, which is quite long. It's 30 plus days, and we want to get that down to sort of 18 to 21 days. And with the Solent therapy input, which will be in there when we move the Jubilee House service into South Sea unit, then that will enable that length of stay to improve. Portsmouth as a city doesn't have the same domiciliary issues that Hampshire does. It is still pressurised, but we generally see better flow as a city because of the integrated way that we work. So we're just looking to sort of make that even more effective with this change.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from anyone?
May I, Chair?
Martin, yes?
Yeah, it's a very quick one again, I think. In terms of allocating resources to demand, there's comments in the annexes that that's happening, but it's not happening well. I mean, the high demand area is not getting the resources that we think should be allocated to them. But it doesn't, I couldn't find any numbers to suggest which areas were suffering in that sense. Is that available, please?
Andrew, that's a question for you on the community mental health review and the allocation of resources across the patch.
Yeah, sorry, apologies. I thought we were dealing with the first few items, but do you want me to answer that now, Councillor Heaney, or do you want me to do a bit of a preamble or a bit of context setting to the overall paper?
Well, I mean, maybe if you could answer the question directly, that might help, and then we can do any sort of summary we need in a minute in case you need to do that. Did you want to ask the question first?
So, in terms of the allocation of resources going forward, was that particularly in relation to Portsmouth versus other areas, or was it a broader question? Can I just ask Councillor Pepper?
Well, I guess it's a broader question, but you'll be surprised to hear that I'll come back to Gosport at some point if we don't get a mention.
Right. Okay. So, in the context of the strategic review, there were 5 recommendations. One of which is a strategic review of financing of community and mental health services across the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. That piece of work is being led by the finance team within the Integrated Care Board. We will play a part in that, What we do recognise, and was part of the overall review, was that there has been differential funding and resource allocation to different areas of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, some of which has been very conscious commissioning decisions. Within Portsmouth, there has been significantly increased investment in community and mental health services. And the outcomes, as evidenced within the report, indicates actually the outcomes for the population of Portsmouth actually have been better than elsewhere within Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. And there's been a lower spend overall within the acute sector because of that investment. We would look to be using those lessons across the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight to look at actually where you can strategically invest in, say, community and mental health services. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor Pepper.
Well, I wouldn't say it on a daily basis, but I have a number of people that contact me frequently, or regularly, I should say, suggesting that they're either themselves or their children often are not able to access mental health treatment in what they consider to be a reasonable time frame, whatever that means, of course. I just wondered then if you think that situation might get better or worse following a review.
I would hope by teams working together across the many organisations. So the review looked at the services provided by both, well, by Solent NHS Trust, by Southern Health, by Sussex Partnership, and by the Isle of Wight Trust. But actually, by teams working together and much more closely, then those services will improve. We recognise, particularly in CAMHS, that there are long waiting lists, whether you're a Hampshire resident or a Portsmouth resident, and by working together and learning best practice from each other and be able to smooth the pathways, we're hopeful that actually those waiting times will come down. But there just needs to be seen in terms of the national context as well, where there are a shortage of CAMHS practitioners, and we're doing everything we can do to increase our workforce to deliver those better services.
Yeah, I should have said at the start, I'm not trying to criticise anyone, I'm just trying to clarify, really, so that I can give some kind of reasonable response to people when they ask me questions, that's all. So it's not a criticism of anyone.
And just, it's interesting to use the CAMHS example, and this is probably a good area to explore or to expand on. The service within Hampshire is currently provided by Sussex Partnership for the community services. If that child needs to go for an inpatient stay, then that's up to another organisation and could well be out of the county. When they then transition into mental health services, there's a handoff between Sussex Partnership and Southern Health. So you've got many players in the system, and by creating one organisation, you reduce that complexity, which should provide better care.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Martin. Manandra, your update is actually part of the main agenda item 5. Is there anything you wanted to add about it before we go on? Anything particularly you wanted to highlight that you haven't already said that you think is important? I've seen Arthur indicating, but I want to do that first, and I'll come to Arthur and I come to Siobhan.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me to highlight, there are 5 recommendations within the report which we are working through. There's one in relation to place, which I know is particularly important to the unitary authority within Portsmouth, and I've been speaking with David Williams about that. There's a recommendation about the strategic finance, which I've talked about. There's a recommendation to look at the provision of community inpatient facilities. More of an issue actually more in the north of the county than in the kind of south of the county. There's a recommendation for a clinical strategy for mental health and community services, and the final one is the creation of one single organisation. The teams from all the organisations are actually working very closely together. We've set up clinical groups. Clinicians are very excited about the opportunities to improve patient care. And I think the report's been a catalyst to actually better system working. Also, we're looking at some of the kind of back office non-clinical functions as well, because actually there could well be synergies by working together. So we have shared estate, or we should have shared estate, for example, to make the best of the public pound. The one thing which kind of Susanna kind of talked about earlier is the importance of working very closely together, so having integrated teams. And in essence, this proposal hopefully will actually ensure more integration of teams. So I'm very proud that Solent and Portsmouth City Council do have very close working teams within the kind of adult sphere and children's services. And we'd be looking to do that and kind of replicate that, I think, throughout South Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. So there's that context I'd like to put out there.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you for that. So now, Arthur, you can ask your question. I just wanted to do that to set the context a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm still on Jubilee House.
Yeah.
Having over the years visited patients there when it was in its EOL status. You're closing it in October. What are you going to do with it? That's a nice, simple question, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not fit for use for. Certainly, it wasn't for EOL. Yes, quite. Yeah. But I mean, it's a nice location. It's close. It could have quite a considerable amount of facilities in there. It's got reasonable parking. Please, what are you going to do with it? That would be interesting to know.
So there are a number of options that we're looking at right now. We certainly will not be disposing of it straight away because we want to be able to use it for the health and social care economy, particularly when there is so much pressure on estate and local services. We do need to do a little bit of work in there because there's asbestos in the roof, and we've had a mouse problem for several years. So we need to be able to do that piece of work once the team move out and the patients move out, but we will be utilising it for the benefit of services. We just need to finalise on what the preferred option is and what teams we can put in there.
I think we look forward to your next report.
Thank you, Arthur. Siobhan.
Thank you. I know I'm going to be talking about Healthwatch separately, but I had a question, if I may, for Andrew with regard to the community mental health review, the independent review that was undertaken, and the 5 recommendations that were published and that you've described. So engagement with patients and the public on the findings from the review. We asked what engagement had taken place prior to publication of the report, and we heard that there was very minimal engagement, but it wasn't mentioned in the report. But further to our request for clarification on that, we understood that there was going to be some engagement work undertaken. We haven't heard anything further on that, and you just mentioned that the 5 recommendations we're going to be working through, which indicates that full steam ahead rather than actually a pause in proceedings to engage with those who are likely to be affected by the changes, obviously, from this independent review. So I'm just wondering if you could give an update, please, on where the engagement activity, if there is to be any, is at present. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's been recognised that the engagement, I think, with the wider population isn't where we would have liked it to have been. And I certainly attended the Southampton OSP as well, where the similar comments were coming out.
Right.
We are working with our ICB colleagues and having an agreed engagement process over the next few months. So there should be some more details we'll be able to give you, Siobhan, once we just finalise those things. It's something we've recognised. I raised it yesterday within the Health and Care Portsmouth Partnership Board, and I know that Roger from Healthwatch was there, and I did pick it up with him. The participants in this, particularly colleagues from Southern Health or Solent, we will attend whenever and wherever we're asked to in terms of that kind of engagement. So it is something we actively want to do, but we'll be able to provide details over the next few days and weeks.
Thank you.
Okay. Arthur, or another question, Arthur.
Sorry, presumably that at the next HOS meeting, that we will get the feedback from that?
Sorry, I'm afraid I don't know how often your HOS meetings are, Councillor.
But every 3 months.
Every 3 months. So yes, in that case, yes, you would get a feedback at that next meeting.
Thank you. Sorry for butting in, Chair.
No, that's okay. That's fine. Actually, you got your question in. Good. I haven't got anyone in the chat indicating a question. I also don't appear to see any hands, although I can't see every single person. So if you have indicated or are indicating you want to speak now. No. Good. Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Susanna and Andrew, for your contributions and for answering all those questions. I don't know whether you want to stay for the rest of the meeting. Please feel free to if you want. But if you have other more important things to do, please feel free to leave. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chair.
Right. So we're now on to Health Watch report from Siobhan. So Siobhan, would you like to take it away? You're on mute actually. We can't.
Sorry, there we go. So first of all, shall I just check if people want to see the presentation? I know we've got loads of time, but the presentation was sent in advance, so I'm happy to just take any questions on the report, should councillors have any questions.
I think
rather than me go through death by PowerPoint.
We've had the slides to have a look at. I think
Yes.
it'll be questions really, because if anything's not clear, because sometimes slides don't always explain everything, then I'm happy to ask questions on that. So if anybody has any particular questions you wanted to ask, Arthur.
Sorry, Chair. We've got new members on the committee. I do think it would be more beneficial if Siobhan went through the report, please.
What do the new members think? Have you had a chance to have a look?
I've had a look. Oh, sorry, Chair. I've had a look, but I'm tending to agree with Arthur.
Okay. Anyone else?
I've had a look, and I'm tending to agree with Siobhan.
Well, shall we sort of have a quick run through the slides? Are you able to show them, or do you?
Yes, I can. I can do that, and then have slightly more emphasis on things that maybe occur to people as I'm speaking, to dwell on those topics instead, rather than just talk about the slides. So I shall share.
Sorry, if we're talking about just the slides, I can see the slides. That's why I keep looking down separately to here. But if you don't,
so
show the slides,
I'm just about to share them, if that will help.
I don't know whether everyone's got. I've got paper copies, but maybe not everyone has got their copies in front of them.
So if I go to the beginning, and then I can do a slideshow. Okay, so I guess everyone can see that. Slideshow, great. Okay, so looks like you can see Health Watch Portsmouth.
Yep.
Yep, front slide. Okay, so what we are and what we do. So I created a set of very straightforward slides to explain what Health Watch is to those who have not so far come across Health Watch, which is a statutory function that is funded by the government, and funding comes to each local authority, which then commissions a Health Watch service to be provided in their area. Health Watch Portsmouth is commissioned by Portsmouth City Council, and Public Health are the commissioning department, and the current service provider organisation, that is our back office, if you like, is an advocacy organisation called Help and Care. But Health Watch Portsmouth itself isn't an organisation, it's a project within a host organisation. But this purpose of this presentation is to say what we actually do, rather than the nuts and bolts of who provides our office space, if you like. So we're the independent patient voice champion for health and care services in Portsmouth. That is our function. We have patients talking to us, but equally we can have the ear of commissioners and providers, and we have a place on the Health and Wellbeing Board, but we also are able to influence discussions, service planning, based on feedback we have received from patients. So there's 8 statutory functions, and I've just listed those there. And so we encourage people to get involved. We gather feedback. We provide those patient experiences to planners and providers. We comment on the quality and availability of services, as we had just done with the community mental health independent review. We provide information about health and care services. So dentistry is an example of that, where we've been supporting people in Portsmouth to find out what's available. We review how service planners have involved patients in their thinking about new services, and that was my question to Andrew Strivens with regard to engagement activities for the community mental health review. And then with the other 150 local Health Watch across England, we provide feedback to Health Watch England, excuse me, so that they get a picture of what's going on locally altogether. And the reason why dentistry is now in Therese Coffey's health plan for patients, her ABCDD plan, is because Health Watch raised onto the national government agenda the plight of patient access to NHS appointments. A key player in that has been Health Watch Portsmouth, yay! And we have been participating in discussions locally and nationally on what is being experienced in the city of Portsmouth. And it's very encouraging that there has now been a focus, a specific focus nationally on the problems for people accessing NHS dental appointments. And then if there's a particular issue, such as dentistry, we would highlight that particular issue rather than a generic picture. So those are our activities. We listen, we talk about quality, and we provide amplification for the patient voice in Portsmouth. There's a Southampton Health Watch, there's an Isle of Wight, there's a Hampshire Hampshire Health Watch as well. But we are specifically City of Portsmouth. Some people might say, okay, so what have you done? And in the year ending March 22, we had to re-establish ourselves because there was a new contract. We were exceptionally busy providing information and support around COVID, access to GP surgeries and dentists, as I've mentioned. We've found out what people's experiences are of accessing accident and emergency, and we're feeding in those feedback statements right now to the organisers of the urgent care rethink. We did an interim view at the QA Hospital Emergency Department, and recommendations have been made. An interim view visit, which is a statutory activity of Health Watch, looks at the care environment in a care home. And Russets is a care home that supports people with learning disabilities. And we made recommendations, and the Quality Board of Portsmouth City Council is now working with Health Watch to identify what has changed as a result of the recommendations we've made, and they are helping us to identify with the care home what opportunities there are for changes to be made for the benefit of the residents. We encourage best practice engagement on special care dentistry because there was a lack of engagement to start with, and we reminded the special care service provided by Solent NHS on their responsibility to speak with patients before making changes in service plans and delivery. And the special care dentistry service stopped what they were doing and engaged with patients to find out what their views were prior to making decisions about service change. So that worked very well indeed. And we've done scrutiny on health and care service planning, such as dental, GP surgery websites to see what information is carried on the websites, whether it's accurate. Dementia services we input to the plans going forward that Portsmouth Hospitals University Trust developed. Speech and language therapy, we actually gave feedback to Solent NHS Trust on the difficulties that children with Down syndrome had in accessing the service. There was a significant gap in access for children with Down syndrome compared to children who did not have Down syndrome to that service, and we challenged Solent on why that was, and they have changed their service provision as a result of that challenge. And then the needle attack pathway is in result of the new victim, unfortunately, that is now presenting in hospitals of a needle attack from being spiked either by a needle or alcohol in the social events going on in Portsmouth. And there was a lack of pathways. So we have called for a comprehensive set of information to be made available to patients and the public should they have the unfortunate experience of being attacked with a needle. So those are some of the things that we have been working on in the activity year 21-22. In our annual report, we were very proud to be able to identify all these outcomes and changes made. So I won't dwell on those. You can read them at your leisure, but we were really pleased to be able to have so many outcomes of positive changes made to services as a result of Healthwatch Portsmouth feedback. And again, as I say, the feedback is so important to the cogs of the service planning and service providing. Equally, signposting people to services that are available helps people make informed decisions about which services to choose. We've got plans that we're working through at the moment because we are in our 2022-23 year. We're looking at a quality framework that Healthwatch England issue. We've just been doing that, and we are flying colours through that. We are influencing service delivery. We're supporting the deaf community to have more input into how services are provided for people who are less able to hear. That's one of our current activities. We are constantly looking at our communications and engagement strategy, purely because there's shifting sands every day in terms of what is going on in the city and how we respond to that. We always provide information on health and care services, and we encourage best practice in public and patient engagement. Perfect example of that was my asking Andrew Strevens what was going to be happening with engagement for the community mental health service review. We undertake interim view visits. We've got a series of 3 that we're planning to do. We're expecting to go to the rehabilitation units at Spinnaker Ward at St Mary's Hospital. We are expecting to go to Admiral Jellicoe House, the care home, new care home for veterans. And we're also hoping to go to a facility supporting people with learning disabilities and autism as part of the implementation plan from the Winterbourne review process that was initiated in 2019, I believe. We've also got a nice standalone funded project with the University of Portsmouth on health inequalities, and we're organising that at the moment, and that will be published in March 2023. So it's a significant piece of work where there will be one-to-one discussions with people in the most deprived wards in Portsmouth, finding out about their experiences of access to services and their daily lives impacted by difficulty in accessing health, and then what they would say are good ideas for changing that for their benefit. So those are some of the things we're planning to do. We've been out and about thanks to the reduction in COVID restrictions. So we've been to all these places since May, and all these places since May, apart from Fratton Family Festival, which had to be postponed, and the Cosham, Somerstown and Hillsey parties are due next month now. With the Queen's funeral arrangements, we had to have that series of activities postponed, but they will be taking place in October. Not heard yet whether Fratton Family Festival is going to go ahead yet. And Portsmouth Carers event is taking place in November, 24th of November. So thank you very much. And any questions?
I think the slide with those events just didn't come up, so we need to maybe just have a quick look at that.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So those are the ones that we've been at. So St Mary's Church, various drop-ins around the city for good mental health, Somerstown, Mayfair, Paulsgrove, Portsmouth Pride, Baffin's Pond, Cosham Awareness, Opens Day for Men's Wellbeing. That was at Buckland United Reformed Church. And then if I go on to the next set, the Cosham, Somerstown and Hillsey parties that were Portsmouth City Council organised, they were due to have taken place last weekend and the week before, but those were postponed due to the Queen's funeral arrangements. So they will be taking place in October, and all the stall organisers who were going to be attending are being re-invited to be available in October for those events. Fratton Family Festival, we haven't heard if they are reorganising their festival, but it should have taken place last weekend. And then the Portsmouth Carers event is on the 24th of November.
Okay, thank you for that. I've got indications from Martin and then Anne. So Martin?
So shall I stop sharing, or would it be helpful just to keep the slides up? Stop.
They haven't scrolled through, so we're still on the first one, but yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll stick with that. And if we want to bring something up, we can go back to it if necessary. So Martin.
Yeah, thanks for that, Siobhan. That's very helpful, and I'm learning a lot here. And congratulations on the success bits. In terms of accessing people, I always have questions about people that cannot read and how you get in touch with them, how you get their feedback, and you wouldn't believe the number of times the answer ends up with, we put it on our website.
Yes, well, we would speak to people at stalls. So when we're out and about, if someone is wanting to speak with us, we're there in person. They can also telephone us and we can speak over the phone.
But then it does go back to my point about how do they know to telephone you?
Indeed. So we would hope that word of mouth would spread that we are available. I was appearing on BBC Radio Solent this morning. I often appear on Radio 105. So Healthwatch tries very hard to have a public face, not just in the print, but in the media as well. But it is difficult to reach everyone. I accept that, fully accept that. But if people can spread the word about Healthwatch Portsmouth to those who are less able to access the statutory service, then I'd be very grateful for anyone to spread the word about us, and we'd be more than happy to speak to people either face to face or on the telephone, should they wish to benefit from anything that Healthwatch Portsmouth can help them with.
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Anne, do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, thank you. It's more of a comment really than a question. I'm a great fan of Healthwatch, which is mine is Hampshire. You can often get things done that we can't sometimes. But my actual question to you is, you did a walkthrough at QA in the ED department.
Yes.
Now, was it looking at it as it is now, or were you looking to see how it will be in the future? Because I'm always very concerned about the parking. I'm not quite happy about the parking they've got in the planned for the new ED for people who have, often a doctor will say, don't wait for an ambulance, take someone down. Mm-hmm. And then they have huge difficulties about parking, getting that person into ED. Have you been looking at that, please?
Well, the walkthrough was of the current emergency
Right.
department, and we made recommendations about how that could be improved, specifically at the front door, with all the problems being experienced
Yeah,
with
stressful.
appointments and patients, and the system, which we said prior to it being introduced, it's not going to work, and sadly we've been proven correct on that. But we have asked to be involved in what's called the emergency department transformation plans. We have repeatedly asked to be involved in those discussions, and as to date we are not involved on any regular basis whatsoever with those plans. But the Portsmouth Hospitals University Trust Patient, Family and Carer Collaborative, of which Healthwatch is a member, are involved in those discussions. So I sort of have by proxy a toe in the water to be able to engage with those discussions. However, it would be much more appropriate, and we see direct for Healthwatch to be engaged with the project team, and this was a pledge made, but sadly we are yet to have been involved in those discussions.
That's a shame. I've had a couple of presentations on the new
Yeah.
ED, but I haven't been really satisfied with any of them. And can I just comment, ask Chairman, please, ask Siobhan, when you were in ED, people have been waiting 7 hours, and I know in some places longer. And when they've said they're going to leave, they've been asked to sign a disclaimer. Do you know about that? They're fed up with waiting and they're going to go. And I've had residents ring me up and ask, is that legal? I would have asked Bernie, but I didn't put my name in soon enough.
I've not come across that as a patient experience. It doesn't sound right to me.
No, and it's
at all.
No, this is people one had an allergy and her face and eyes had swollen and they were closed, and she was very distressed, and in the end she couldn't sit there any longer. And when she said she was going home, she was asked to sign a disclaimer, which she didn't. And I've had 2 more. So this is what I was going to ask Bernie. Okay, thank you, Chairman. That was...
I can investigate a little bit more about that, because it does sound an extremely worrying development.
Yes, I wasn't very happy about it.
From where they were previously expecting that there wouldn't be any queuing at the emergency department because everyone would go through 111 and be made an appointment, or if they turned up on foot, then they would be redirected, should that be necessary, to the most appropriate service, or they would be taken straight through the front doors to be given life-threatening care support through the emergency department. What is happening is that people are arriving because they're unclear about the process, and there are an awful lot of people with appointments or without appointments who are confused, and the queues, if they're waiting 7 hours, are clearly too big to cope with.
And they can't get through on 111 half the time. That's what exasperates the problem.
Yeah.
And also, did you look at the ambulance timing? Because again, Bernie said they were trying to get it below the 60 minutes, but it's way above 60 minutes. Sometimes it's up to 3 hours. Yeah.
So what Healthwatch are suggesting is that, and I said this morning on the radio, sufficient care packages for patients so that there is a better flow through the hospital will mean then that there is availability of staff in the hospital to treat patients coming in, so that those ambulance waits fall.
Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I see Arthur put a question in the chat, but you maybe want to ask it anyway, because I saw you put your hand up and you put your hand down. So do you want to ask the question, or do you want me to read it?
In chat. When will QAH be breaking ground on the UG building? 2024, I believe. October 24, I think, was the planned opening for it, and it seems to be getting closer and closer. And I haven't seen the progress. So we've got 2 years basically between now and opening. I haven't seen the most recent iteration of those transformation plans, so I'm assuming they are still on track, and they've had their business plan approved of, I believe.
Yes, I understand that everything was go ahead, but we had not received an update from them. Certainly not, I don't think, in the last 2 meetings. It wasn't so much a question when I put my hand up, it was to make a comment about triage at QA. That's where it seems to let itself down more than anything else. I can't fault the system itself, just the application and the manpower of it. My wife dragged me off to the hospital, to my doctor's back in May, and within half an hour, the doctor's telling my wife to drive me straight down to QA. He'll be ringing the emergency department. I went in, was in triage in about 5 minutes on the trolley, and was stopped to D4 in very short space of time. So, do QA really need to have a better look at their triage when people turn up? I know there's ambulances outside with people laying in them. Whose decision is it, and can we improve this flow better?
So I believe during periods of excessive pressure on the system that the decision on how long to hold patients in ambulances was changed, so that it was a maximum of 30-minute wait. And so when they were under extreme pressure, they were able to make that decision to then take the patient from the ambulance if they had been waiting for 30 minutes, and then have them observed in the hospital itself to enable the ambulances then to go and respond to the next call. So there are issues with, as I say, flow through the hospital, but the triage is in relation to people who are presenting at the front door of QA, and what type of support that can be offered to patients who perhaps are not aware of the new system. And we were asking the NHS to promote public information a lot more about the difference in access to emergency services as had previously been. And we in Healthwatch do not feel that that was a robust enough information campaign to help people understand what to do and where to access support for a life-threatening or a non-life-threatening episode of care.
We shall look forward to that changing then.
I hope so.
Well, presumably you're going to be putting pressure there somewhere. Yeah, so
we do every day.
We look forward to it.
Can I just ask one thing? I don't know if Siobhan knows this, but they did at one stage have a GP at the hospital who could do some assessment of people. Do they still have that, or was that for the hospital?
They tried that, but they haven't got enough GPs.
Well, that's I'm wondering. I thought that might be the problem.
So they didn't want to have a GP at ED pulling time away from being in a practice. But I have challenged the trust with what they can do to help people who are redirected from the urgent treatment centre at St Mary's, where the patient can't be treated at St Mary's, but equally they can't be treated at QA if they don't have a life-threatening condition. And my repeated challenge has been, what happens to the major minors? Where do they go if they are too severe for the urgent treatment centre, but in a way not severe enough for the emergency department to take them straight in to the assessment area. So they are looking at that at the moment, and I believe there's a huge review project on the provision of support, and I believe something is going to be announced in the next couple of months, because they are aware that there is a body of people who are being redirected several times and they're not getting the care they need at the point of access.
Thank you. Martin's asked a question in the chat about that 30-minute wait limit you mentioned in ambulances in June 22. You said I was waiting for 2 hours. Do we know when that 30-minute has it lapsed because they can't deal with it?
It was a very brief period when they had excess pressure and they were at black alert or opal alert, I think. So it was only a very, very short time. But it suggests to me that there is flexibility there, rather than it having to always be a particular amount of time, 1 hour.
I didn't count them, but apparently there were 21 ambulances in the car park at that stage.
Yeah, and there are often at least 20 ambulances queuing. It's not just a one-off situation.
So Arthur.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was I mean, we got a UTC in Petersfield, and the question, I suppose, really is there any future thoughts on expansion of the facilities at the UTCs? I don't know, there's a lot of room at Petersfield, but it's the question worth asking. Is there any chance that there will be expansion on the facilities available at the UTCs? And time, of course, is another one, because I think they were closing early because of lack of staff. I assume that's going to alter. I'd like to see something come back at our next meeting on this.
So I understand that within this big review that I was talking about, the urgent treatment centres are very much centre stage of that review piece being done. So I think urgent treatment centres need to clarify more clearly what they can offer patients, and 111 need to be clear about which is the most appropriate location of the urgent treatment centre, because patients we hear who have been told by the 111 service to go to St Mary's, and if St Mary's are unable to take more patients, the patient is then referred to Petersfield, even though they might be a Gosport resident, because the information in the system is not directing patients to the urgent treatment centre in Gosport, which does seem to be completely unnecessary when you're looking at the geography. So we have heard that there needs to be a understanding, both from the health professional side but equally the public side, about the great facility that urgent treatment centres can provide.
We asked for a report on this, Chairman, for our next meeting.
Yes, I think we could do that. Alison, can we put that as an action item, that we have a report back on the urgent treatment centres' capacities and what they can do?
I think they might be able to report by then. They might at least on some sort of update, at least.
Good. That's okay. Thank you, Arthur. I've got Anne wanting to ask a question.
Well, actually, Arthur really answered my question. I was going to ask Siobhan if she works closely with the UTCs. And I absolutely agree with what you just said. The public don't know how to differentiate between the UTC and the hospital, and people. And the trouble with Petersfield, because I visit it as part of the Hampshire HOSC, don't go there if you break your arm and leg after 4 o'clock. They've got the x-ray, but no one to do it for you, which that again isn't clear to people. I think the UTCs are great. They work well when people understand what they're there for. And as you say, people have been sent to, say, Petersfield. Petersfield can't deal with it, and then they're sent down to QA anyway. So even though they work, they could work a lot better if it was clearer.
It's the accuracy of information that is presented to the public, and that is not maintained or updated.
No, thank you.
So there was a quick question about urgent treatment centres. Sorry, this the very first thing you were saying just previously about urgent treatment centres. What involvement do we have? Well, we are going to be doing a community-based research piece at St Mary's Urgent Treatment Centre. We're going to be speaking to patients using a set of questions, hopefully in the autumn, this autumn, to ask about their experience of attending Urgent Treatment Centre, and Healthwatch Portsmouth will be publishing a report on that.
Yeah, I think that would be very helpful. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's looking at it. Sorry, Chair. Looking at it from my point of view, it would be more, and possibly from Gosport residents, it would look better if that was a three-way talk to all three urgent treatment centres within this catchment area.
So Healthwatch Hampshire could cover Gosport and Petersfield's urgent treatment centres because they are outside of our patch, if you like.
Do you obviously speak to the other Healthwatch?
Yes, we do. Yeah, so we could say this is what we
could
found.
Be.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with Arthur. That really needs to be done for all of them. I mean, people who use Petersfield are normally very happy because they're not too busy and they feel that they're given time by whoever they're seeing in general, I believe.
I would say that my experience 2 or 3 times agrees with that, and that it's looking at it from the point of view that you can walk in there, talk to reception, and within 5 minutes be in radiography. And obviously there is a resource not being fully used.
There's a waitlist app that's just about to be launched for Portsmouth on the 30th of September. And this app is going to be explaining wait times at the urgent treatment centres, Petersfield, Gosport and Portsmouth. And it will help patients to make a choice about which place to go to. And I suspect that patients, when they see the wait time at St Mary's and compared to the wait time in Petersfield, may say, I'm going to drive up to the A3, up to Petersfield. And there was a question I raised when this waitlist app was being launched as a trial elsewhere, why they were including the statistics for the emergency department at QA, because that will confuse patients. If they're looking for treatment in an urgent treatment centre, why are they being also given information about the wait in an emergency department if it's not appropriate service that they are seeking? And the answer was that they were trying to give a comparison to patients about the wait time in emergency department compared to urgent treatment centre. And I said, may I suggest that that just confuses the picture rather than informs patients? And I believe that may well be changed, but we'll have to see on the 30th of September whether emergency department statistics are still included, but let's hope they're not.
No, because again, that's going to confuse people as to who they should be going to
Indeed.
see, isn't it?
Indeed.
So where will this time, where will it be advertised? Where will people be able to find it? How will they know it's there?
I only heard through a meeting. I haven't seen any publicity about it, but there is a waitlist app currently in operation. It's just going to be launched for Portsmouth, I believe, on the 30th of September. As to any comms about it in the city, I have not seen anything yet.
Right, because it'd be a total waste of time having the app if people don't know it's there and can use it.
I would agree.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Siobhan. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
think the chat, there isn't any other one indicating unless anyone wants to ask a further question. No? Okay. Well, thank you, Siobhan. Thank you for answering all those questions in that presentation, particularly for the new members who may not have been aware of what health does. I think that was really helpful to see all the things that you actually do. Well, that really is the conclusion of the meeting. I think we have a date for December, but I haven't got my diary in front of me and I can't remember when it is. It is in December. Alison, do you have a date for the next meeting or not?
I actually think it's in November.
Oh, November. all right.
Yes. Can I come? Have a look, see if I can find it.
Canada, I think it's 17th of November.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Can I offer my?
Yeah, that sounds
No,
right.
I'm not here on the 17th of November.
That's what I've got in my diary.
Yeah,
Yeah.
17th
My
of
apologies
November.
for that. So I offer my apologies to you now, sir.
Okay.
If you could change the date, I'd appreciate it. I got full council in the evening, and that's another 3.5, 4 hour stint.
I've got no problems with December at all. No problems with December.
Me too.
Or the first, couple of weeks in November, but then I'm away for 2 weeks at the end of November. From the 13th to the 30th, really, you can say.
I don't want to throw further confusion into things, but it does look like we might have an issue with members being able to come in November.
17th of November, yeah. Okay.
If we want reports on some of the things like the urgent treatment centres progress and what they're doing, we might need a little bit more time to get the information to us.
Yeah.
Because obviously we need to have it in advance so that, so I don't know whether we want to think about a possible date. I'm not saying we do change the date, but we could maybe think about that as a possibility, particularly if we have a number of members who can't be here.
Okay.
There's certainly no problems with me in the middle of December because I've got basically council work. I've got basically nothing, so I can, you can have me as long as you like there.
I'm okay for the 10th or the 24th.
Okay. Well, it does happen to be my birthday on the 17th, but I don't mind attending a meeting on my birthday. So
But December is that?
No,
So-
November.
Okay,
Oh,
so it's
November.
preferable for December. I'll take it back to the team. I won't be arranging that one, so we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
Sorry, Chairman, is James Harris still running Democratic down there?
Yes.
James is still here. Yes,
Yes,
he's
he is.
But then, would you please tell him Arthur's asked him very kindly if he'd change the date, please?
Okay.
He used to be Democratic Services for EHDC.
Oh, right. So you've got an inside track on him, so you can help.
Probably not.
Okay, well, can I thank members for their attendance? Thank you for the questions and thank you for bearing with me because this is the first meeting I've ever chaired as a virtual meeting. I've been a member at a meeting over there, but I know, so I'm thank you for bearing with me while I sort of found my way around how to do it. And I think I'm a bit better knowledge when I started, so thanks indeed.
Well done, Chair.
Yeah, well done, Chair.
You've done a wonderful
To
job.
see you in the next meeting.
Thank
We look forward to
I'll
it.
finish the live stream now.
Yes,
Okay.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Chairman. Bye-bye. The top there.